Good evening, welcome back. This is News in Focus. My name is Faraz Patel. We like to say thank you for staying with us here on Hilaal TV channel 347 on DSTV. And today we're going to be chatting to another member of parliament that was sworn in last week. As the MK party continues to make waves across the political sphere and within the National Assembly, they've brought in new members. Some of them, Siyabonga Gama, Lucky Montana, Mzwanele Mani, they've joined the ranks of the MK party. There is a rumor, of course, the other confirmed name is Colleen Makubeli, who was part of the South African Rainbow Alliance. One name, and if reports are true, it's going to be Bongani Baloyi from the Shiluva party. But with us here on News in Focus, I'd like to welcome a guaranteed stamp of approval for a member of parliament, and that's none other than Brian Molefe. You might know Brian Molefe from Eskom, from Transnet, and he joins us now online via Zoom. Mr. Molefe, good evening. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
No, it's an absolute pleasure. Mr. Molefe, what does the Brian Molefe of Eskom and Transnet bring to a parliamentary setting, to a National Assembly setting, given that most of your life has been within the corporate space?
I think that it is quite important with the experience that a person like myself has to come back and plow back the experience by way of adding value into the work of Parliament, which is the oversight role of Parliament. So it is easier to give oversight if you have been there and you know the workings of an entity or of a policy matter, so that your inputs have weight. So this is what the MK party is offering by recruiting people like myself who have technical know-how and experience in some of the work that Parliament has to give oversight on.
Mr. Molefe, now you have been, with regards to the allegations of state capture, and I have to bring this because this has been the talk amongst media, this has been the talk amongst maybe other members of parliament also. Now, is it a fair reflection that when you enter as the member of parliament that the state capture cloud still lingers over your head? What do you say to people who will continuously bring that up while, of course, you serve within the National Assembly?
Well, the members of parliament who are here have taken an oath to protect and defend the Constitution. Section 35 of the Constitution says that a person is presumed innocent until he has been found guilty by a court of law. I have not been found guilty by any court of law, and so the presumption of innocence, in as far as I am concerned, stays. And that presumption of innocence is not just a paper presumption of innocence. It means that you cannot treat me like a person who has been convicted or who has been found guilty, when in fact I have not been found guilty by a court of law. Now, the Zondo Commission's recommendation, and this started with the Tulima Downsela report. The Zondo Commission's recommendation is that there must be a further investigation into these allegations that concern me. This was also recommended by the Tulima Downsela report. The conclusion of the report was also to say that there must be a further investigation. So now, I have waited 7 years, and I don't think it will be fair to expect me to wait for the further investigation to finish. Fact of the matter is that there is no evidence that links me to corruption or any dealings that were not in line with what was required of me. And I have given the authorities 7 years to bring their case forward, if there is any, so that we can answer it. But I think it will be unfair for a person to hold their lives the way that I have done, put it in abeyance and lie low for 7 years, to do that for much longer, because it doesn't look like these issues are going to be resolved next year or by December. So now I've decided to continue with my life and to fight for the transformation of South African society, the transformation of the economy of South Africa, and fighting, continuing the fight against poverty, unemployment, and inequality in South Africa. If the authorities wish to continue with the investigations, the never-ending investigations, then they are welcome to do so.
I want to touch on this Zondo Commission of Inquiry. You're now an MP of Parliament, and of course, it's not just to say it's Brian Molefe's name that's in there. There's current ANC members of Parliament from the African National Congress whose names are still there. So, how does a Brian Molefe hold others accountable in terms of the Zondo Commission recommendations going through, knowing maybe your name could also be in the mix? But obviously, you've just said it now. It's allegations. You've not been proven in the court of law, and I think that is something that we have to respect. But as a member of Parliament, as Brian Molefe being an MP, how does he now say this Zondo State Capture of Commission recommendations needs to be pushed so that others also face the might of the law as they are implicated within this report?
The Zondo Commission's recommendation in the final analysis is that there must be further investigation by the NPA. So the Zondo Commission does not say definitively that I have done things that are wrong. It says that maybe I have done things that are wrong and that there must be a further investigation by the NPA. Fact of the matter is, I think that the government should have given the 1 billion rand to the NPA to investigate these allegations so that the NPA can build a case that can stand in a court of law. Shamila Batohi has now been heard saying that it is unfortunate that Zondo relied on hearsay evidence and did not give her things to go with into a court of law to test these allegations. So I think it is all unfair that my life or the lives of those implicated should be kept in abeyance or should be halted, or they should continue to be a cloud hanging over me and the others, just because the Zondo Commission has recommended further investigation. In any event, I'm instituting proceedings in the High Court to review the Zondo Commission.
Mr. Molefe,
because I think that some of the evidence that I gave to the commission was ignored.
Mr. Molefe, Government of National Unity is now the, of course, the ruling coalition sort of pack within the National Assembly. The MK Party is the official opposition within the National Assembly. What's Brian Molefe's take on this Government of National Unity?
I think that you referred to it as a coalition, and you're correct. It is a coalition and not a government of national unity. A government of national unity includes everybody. So in this instance, it's not everybody who is included in that government of national unity. It is a coalition essentially between the ANC and the DA, and the other people are just tagging along. So you must call it what it is, which is a coalition between the ANC and the DA. Well, our role in Parliament is to play the role of the opposition to the ANC and the DA, who are the governing coalition at the moment. And so we will do that effectively, and we will do that in such a way that we take South Africa forward in fighting for equality, fighting against poverty, and fighting against the scourge of race as a determinant of class.
Mr. Molefe, The role of the seventh administration is, of course, a testing one, given that after 30 years of democracy, not a lot has changed. So, how does the MK party, as the official opposition, change that? Because we still have various challenges, especially in the rural areas, in the townships, and many see the MK party as the sort of solution to that happening. So, the MK party's role in addressing the plight of many South Africans, many black South Africans who still are left waiting 30 years into democracy.
The point of departure is to recognize and to accept that the essential colonial structures in South Africa are still in place. The essential apartheid structure of the South African economy is still in place. As I said earlier, race is still a determinant of class. If you are born black, you are most likely to be born poor and into the working class, or even into the unemployed class rather than the working class. So we need to fundamentally and radically intervene in the South African economy and in society in such a way that we can address those issues. I am not saying that we will be able to do so in a year or in 3 months or in 2 years or in 3 years' time, but at least we recognize that that is the problem. The problem that exists at the moment is sometimes a denial of the fact that we still have a problem of the structure of the South African economy, and very much to the disadvantage of black people. We still have a denial that the land that used to belong to the indigenous people of South Africa and was stolen has not been returned, that the theft of the land has not been redressed, and that the indigenous people of South Africa still have a hunger for land. So we recognize that, and that is our point of departure. So the question becomes, what are the practical steps that we are going to take to address all of that? And so the first thing that has happened is that we have seen MK mobilizing professionals, people that have experience, people that have contributed to the South African economy in a meaningful way, bringing us together to work out a program to address these things that I've just talked about.
After the break, I continue my conversation with Brian Molefe, a new Member of Parliament for the MK Party. We're going to be discussing his role within Parliament, especially the experience that he has within Transnet and Eskom, of course, two South African utilities that really are under the cosh right now, and two utilities that are needed in the development of South Africa. Do stay tuned to News in Focus. Welcome back to News in Focus. I'm still in conversation with the new MK Party Member of Parliament, Brian Molefe. Mr. Molefe, I want to talk of your role now that you're going to be playing. Of course, you bring the experience of Transnet, you bring the experience of Eskom. Just on Friday, Transnet was given a multi-billion rand loan from the Developmental Bank. Of course, questions with regards to that, whether it was necessary or not, or whether there could have been self-funding for the ailing utility. For Transnet and Eskom, what is your role in terms of trying to not just hold accountability to those in the top echelons of those respective entities, but also to really make sure that both these utilities are functioning properly? I say that because Transnet's got the issues of their own. Eskom, though, even though there's low reduction, there's the close to 150 days of no load shedding. Talk to us about that, please.
Well, I have been allocated to the Energy Portfolio Committee, to which Eskom reports. And then also to the SCOF, Standing Committee on Finance, which has to do with the National Treasury and the entities under the National Treasury. Additionally, I'm MK Party's whip on for questions that the MK Party asks to Parliament, to the members of the executive in Parliament. And so those questions will have to be, we have to quality check those questions from the other members of MK Party and make sure that we ask relevant questions. So the issue that concerns us immediately is something that happened, I think, in the yesterday or today, where Transnet has announced a loss of 10 billion rand.
Yes.
That is not insignificant, given the fact that, well, at least when I was there until 2015, Transnet was a very profitable organization. We carried 227 million tons of goods on rail in 2014-15. And that was a record. Transnet had never carried so much goods on rail before and has since not. In the last year, that figure was 150 million tons drop in the 150 million tons that they carried on rail, for example. The performance of DCT, Durban Container Terminal, and the other ports has come down from the high of 30 to 35, even sometimes 40 crane moves per hour in the ports. That has come down tremendously. And now the announcement of this loss of 10 billion rand, we think that the board and the minister have to be taken on task. Of course, most of the damage happened under the leadership of Minister Brian Molefe, both at Eskom and at Transnet. You remember that at Eskom, whereas we did not have any load shedding from 2015 to 2018, but when Minister Brian Molefe came on board, we had huge load shedding, and they employed that incompetent person, Andre de Ruyter and Oberholzer. And under them, we had unprecedented load shedding and losses that the company was making from a position of profit when I was there in 2015-16. I think that in the last year, Eskom recorded a loss of about 20 billion or 20-something billion, whereas we were able to make a profit of 6 billion rand when I was there. 6 billion rand profit without load shedding and without using diesel. So the questions that what we would like to understand is exactly what motivated the leadership of these organizations to perform in such a dismal fashion in the last couple of years. Eskom seems to be turning around the corner with no load shedding, but what we want to see, or what we remain to see, and what we will be watching as a parliament or as MK Party in parliament is the profitability of Eskom. Does no load shedding also mean that Eskom goes to be becomes a profitable organization as it has once been?
Mr. Molefe, the names that obviously the MK Party has gotten, the likes of Mzwanele Manye, Siyabonga Gama, Lucky Montana, I've mentioned it yourself. They've brought in obviously Colleen Makupeli. But the big one that, of course, made the massive name was that of Floyd Shivambu, because the MK Party went right next door to its Progressive Caucus partner and took its deputy leader. In terms of the long-term vision of the MK Party, and I would like to assume that you've joined knowing that there's a long-term vision with regards to this political party. What is it that in this project within the MK Party that you saw as Brian Molefe that you truly believe can not only be the effective opposition, but also make a change in the lives of South Africans?
I saw an opportunity to mobilize South Africans, the masses in South Africa, to take the fate into their own hands with respect to issues of inequality and poverty and unemployment and so on. Because after all, it is the people who are faced with a protracted encounter with hopelessness that are best suited to fight and articulate their demands best. So there is that aspect of the mass mobilization, of forming an organization that people can identify with, that can represent the true aspirations of African people in South Africa. That is the one side. The other side is coming together to join a group of professionals where we have an opportunity to develop policy, the international best practice and the international tried and tested policies for the alleviation of poverty, for the issues that are confronting us, land redistribution, and so on and so forth. So under the leadership of Judge John Hlophe, under the leadership of President Zuma, and the other professionals that are here in MK Party, I saw it as the stars really aligning and making it possible, excuse me, making the possibility of an exciting project to make a dent on these problems that confront South Africa.
Mr. Molefe, when I was at the MK Party press conference 2 weeks ago, officially announcing some of the new members of Parliament and other members that joined the party, I'd ask the spokesperson and your fellow MP with regards to the Pala Pala scandal. Of course, you've got the public protector clearing President Cyril Ramaphosa. You're saying you've got the South African Reserve Bank clearing President Cyril Ramaphosa with regards to any wrongdoing. But there's, of course, that cloud, and the Progressive Caucus has said that they would like to go ahead and bring the motion of no confidence against the president. With the numbers within the Progressive Caucus and the other opposition or the other parties sitting in the other oppositions, is the MK Party confident that it can get this motion of confidence through if that is a decision amongst the opposition benches?
We're quite confident that it is possible to put such a motion of no confidence through, because we believe that the vast majority of members of the National Executive and even members of Parliament of the ANC do not support the current coalition with the DA. A lot of people are disillusioned. So we will try and push, and we think that there are quite a significant number of people in the ANC and in Parliament and in the National Executive that would vote with us if we brought such a motion. Of course, it may not succeed the first time that we do it, but we think that if we keep on at it, a time will come when we will be able to push it through, especially if we can fight and win the battle of getting the voting to be done by secret ballot, as it should be, and as it has happened in the past in Parliament. We think that the secret ballot, where members vote through their conscience rather than a party line, is likely to be reflective of what is in the interest of South Africa.
Okay, it's a yes or no answer to this, Mr. Molefe. Is Brian Molefe joining the MK Party this week?
Well, I have not been formally briefed about it. And like you, I have read about it in the newspapers. I have not sat in any meeting where that was discussed. So I would rather that issue is commented on by the leadership of MK Party.
Mr. Molefe, always keeping his cards close to his chest. Mr. Molefe, thank you so much for joining us here on News in Focus on Hilaal TV. Much appreciated.
Thank you very much.
Okay, that's Brian Molefe, a new MK Party member of Parliament, joining us here on News in Focus. Interesting how this is going to pan out. Of course, President Jacob Zuma has gotten quite a lot of, some of his people would say his mates, from the old the state-owned entities, the likes of Siyabonga Gama, the names of Mzwanele Manyi, who was, of course, the head of GCIS, Lucky Montana, who was part of PRASA, and, of course, the managers interviewed now, Brian Molefe. So let's see. Interesting how this party is going now with these names, these big names that are coming in, big names, because they are quite big in the grand scheme of things, whether you think of it in a negative or a positive perspective. These are quite powerhouse names in that regard. So let's see how they perform as members of parliament. It's a different ball game altogether. When you're sitting in the National Assembly and you are the representatives of the public, with, of course, paying for you to be there in the National Assembly. Well, that's all we have for you here on News in Focus from myself, Firas Patel, and the rest of the team here in Johannesburg. We'll see you again, same time, same place tomorrow. Assalamu alaikum, rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.